Good evening and welcome to Save Your Sanity. I'm Dr. Roberta Shader. In this episode, we're going to be talking about narcissistic adult children. And that may not seem to apply to as many people as you might think, but it does, because when you raise a child who turns against you or is demanding or endeavors to hold you hostage through emotions and the fact that you gave them birth, it is a very, very difficult situation. And it takes some specific things. So in this episode, I'm going to give you 21 things not to do if you have a narcissistic adult child. And every one of them is big, needs doing, and takes some work. So let's get into it and figure these things out. And that's important to know. It's truly important to know what's going on. And if you have a narcissistic adult child, you'll be very, very aware of exactly what it is that's going on all the time. You're always feeling as though there's a demand coming, that you haven't done what you should, that it's not good enough. You were never good enough. You didn't give them what they needed. It's your fault they behave the way they do. And I could go on and on and on about all the things that you would feel and all the things that they do in order to have power over you. So that's why I chose to do this episode on these narcissistic people who you may have given birth to, and yet they're there haunting you at all times, keeping you on edge, walking on eggshells, and it's time to stop. But maybe you don't know how to really isolate what it is that's bothering you, how to do it. So there are more than 21 ways, but in this episode, I'm going to give you 21 don'ts. So the first one is don't meet their demands. Step back. I speak so frequently about taking the 4 healthy steps back so that you can see the bigger picture. Now, when did this narcissistic adult child start thinking it was okay to call the shots, to make demands on you? And when did it occur to them that you would go along with it? I've seen parents in recent years who have children who are really on a poor path towards horrid entitlement, and they're laughing at them and saying, isn't it cute how bossy they are and how they throw hissy fits and how they behave like miniature adults. That's not cute. It's not healthy. It's not okay. We have to teach our children that we live in a world of give and take, of yes and no. And if we're not doing that, we can raise children who believe that they can make demands on us. And they can't. Other adults cannot make demands on you. Why should the ones you gave birth to be able to do that? So the first thing not to do is to not meet their demands. And you might say something like, was that a request? Right? That may be a gentle entry into coming into that conversation. Was they make a demand? You should give me this. Was that a request? Was that an ask? Was that something that was an opening line to a conversation? Now, the answer is no, but they don't want to lose face, so they may pretend that it is an opening. But the first thing is, don't meet their demands. They have no right to be making them. You wouldn't keep a friend around another adult who made demands on you, or at least I hope you wouldn't. So it's not okay for your adult children to be doing it either. The number 2 don't is don't let them control you. Don't let them decide what you can and can't do, what you can and can't say, how you spend your money, how you spend your time, what you do, how you order your day, whether or not you make dinner. Just do not let them control you. And don't let them pull you off your moral compass. They want you to do what they want you to do. And they won't love you anymore if you do it. They really, really won't. In fact, they think you're weak. If they can make you do what they want you to do, they actually respect you less. So that's a big don't. Don't let them control you. The third don't is don't have weak boundaries. Now that's almost oxymoronic because there shouldn't be such a thing as a weak boundary. A boundary is a boundary is a boundary. It's not weak or strong. It is a boundary. Where people get confused, it seems, they don't know the difference between an agreement and a boundary. Agreement is something we come to by negotiating and talking. A boundary is, this is where I stop and you begin. And if you don't honor that, I have a non-negotiable consequence. And in this case, with the narcissistic adult children, if that happens, I'm going away, or I'm ending the conversation, or I refuse to discuss this further. And it is absolute. It is non-negotiable. So have boundaries, but be sure they are boundaries. You're not negotiating a boundary. A boundary is, this is okay with me, and this is not. And there is no question where that switch twists. Okay, not okay. And if you do not okay, here's what'll happen. And it has to happen. Because if you ever fail to put the consequence into action, you just told them you don't mean what you say. And then you have a whole long-term piece of work to do to get them back to believing you do mean what you say. So don't have weak boundaries. Number 4, don't respond to their temper tantrums. When they were little and they threw a temper tantrum at the checkout in the grocery because you said no to their demands to have candy, you just watched. And then you picked them up, hopefully, put them in the cart and said the answer is still no. But how many parents don't do that? And say, oh, I'm embarrassed. Oh, I want the child to be quiet. Oh, I've got to appease them somehow. So you give them what they want, and now they expect that they can just pretend or begin to or threaten to throw a temper tantrum, and they'll get what they want. So if you have a history of giving in because their temper scares you, and it is scary, narcissistic adults have terrible rages, and they can be very scary. But really important, don't respond to those temper tantrums with anything except leaving. I don't stay where yelling is involved. That's a boundary. And make sure that you do it. Okay, number 5, don't give in to their threats. Don't they love to threaten you? If you don't do that, I'll never let you see the grandchildren. Okay. That also means you'll never ask me to look after the grandchildren because, that won't be available to you. And it's not a tit for tat situation. I'm just pointing out that they don't see it at the moment, that stream runs both ways. But don't give in to their threats to withhold the grandchildren or not to ever see you in the future. And don't be making empty threats. If you don't do what I say, I'll take you out of my will, because that's a hijackal move too, right? But it's really tempting to try to appease these people, and we don't want to appease them. We don't particularly want to please them, but we definitely don't want to appease them. And that can become a habit. And especially if we raise them from little people, We may have gotten into that habit, and now we have to break it, and they don't like it because it means they're not getting their way. And number 6 is don't respond to their future faking. Oh, well, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you next week. When's the last time you actually got anything out of a bargain like that? How long has it been? I bet it's been a while, right? Because you need to get something in the relationship. There must be give and take. There must be equality, reciprocity, and mutuality. And so when they future fake, they promise something another day. If you'll only do what they want you to do right now, you get hopeful. Oh, maybe there will be reciprocity. Maybe I will be able to count on them. And then you look at their track record and you find, no, you truly can't count on them. Now, of course, as I'm saying all these things, I could just as easily be talking about a narcissistic partner, right? So whatever relationship you're in, you will recognize the same things, and they're all don'ts. But in particular, I was responding because someone in my emerging empowered community said, do you ever talk about working with narcissistic adult children? And I do. And there I just put on the screen, joinintoday.com. That's how you can join my emerging empowered community. But someone in there said, would you do a video on dealing with narcissistic adult children? So that's what I'm doing right now. But it applies to all narcissists. This list of don'ts applies no matter what relationship you have with them. And I'm sure you figured that out already. So don't respond to their future faking. Now, don't let them use the grandchildren as pawns. Hijackals use people, and hijackals use children to get their way. And when you see that, when you clearly see that they know that you want to be involved with the grandchildren, you want time with the grandchildren, that they see that as a pawn in their game to get what they want. So when they threaten to use the children as pawns, don't respond. Something you could say, oh, that would be too bad. But don't ever start begging. Don't ever start giving in, because that's a slippery, slippery slope, and it will not end well. It truly won't end well. Okay, so number 8, don't let them make you feel bad that their behavior is your fault, that their bad behavior is your fault. I wouldn't be this way if you hadn't done this. I wouldn't behave this way if you hadn't let me get away with it. I wouldn't be this way if you weren't so mean. They're adults. It is super, super important that when your children become adults, you let them be adults. Adults have consequences for their behavior. I've done several videos on enabling. One of the big, big defining points of enabling someone is when you fail to let them experience the consequences of their poor choices. So when your child becomes an adult, you have to let them experience the consequences of their poor choices, just as I hope you did before they became an adult. And that's very hard for some people, because you want to go around just softening the world, putting carpet and cushions under their every step. But they're adults now, and that isn't helpful to them, and it will only keep you in servitude and keep you anxious. And that's not going to be helpful. So don't let them make their bad behavior your fault. They're choosing it. They're adults. They're quite capable of choosing it, and they are. Number 9, don't believe their emotional outbursts believe the facts. You know how hijackals twist things. They love to twist things to their advantage. They will tell plausible lies. They will tell plausible stories. They won't be accurate, but they'll be plausible. And if you listen, they will try and manipulate you with emotion because they don't deal in facts. They just don't deal in facts. And when you actually speak a fact, they kind of fall apart. They get worse. They get more angry. They get more upset. They get more blaming and shaming and guilty because they hate facts about their behavior. They hate them. So don't believe all their emotionality. Particularly don't believe their tears. That's just too much. Usually they don't have tears. They pretend to have tears. But they're going to try to win no matter what. If they're going to be big and blustery, they're going to be poor me, they're going to be crying. Whatever they're doing is all just a drama in order to win. And they want to suck you in. Don't be that person. See, I warned you that this was going to be 21 things that were really big to do. So each one of them really takes some work. And if you've been wanting to talk about your particular case, just know that you can talk to me. I have a new client, one-time offer for your first session at $97 at beaclient.com. And we can talk about your issue at beaclient.com. So number 10, don't think that you will receive something from them if you give first. You're wiser than that. You already know that equation doesn't work. It doesn't play out in reality when you're dealing with a hijackal. And if you haven't heard my term hijackal before, I define a hijackal as a person who hijacks a relationship for their own needs and purposes, and then relentlessly scavenges that relationship for power, status, and control. And narcissistic adult children will do that. So they are hijackals. But don't think that if you give them something, there will be reciprocity. There will not. Hijackals are takers. Their motto is get as much as you can by giving as little as possible. So if you are constantly giving and giving, hoping that they're going to like you better, they're going to be nicer to you, they're going to let you see the grandchildren, they're going to come to visit, it's not going to happen. You know that. You know that in your heart. You know that. You don't want to know that, but you know that. Really get in touch with that. Your life needs so much joy, and a hijackal is not going to bring it. Definitely not going to bring it. So number 11 is don't think it's your job to make them happy. It's nobody's job to make someone else happy. Happiness is an inside job. You know, you've heard that saying, you'll be about as happy as you make up your mind to be. That doesn't include somebody doing something for you. And you can't make a hijackal happy. Why? Because if they ever let you think that you made them happy, that means you had some power over them, and they're not going to allow that. So you could be at it for a lifetime trying to make them happy, and they are there denying that anything makes them happy. Sure, something might make them happy for a hot minute. You know, you give them the car that they wanted, and then they crash it and they say, oh, well. Or they never say thank you. Or they don't talk to you for the next 6 months. You understand that not your job to make them happy. And number 12 is don't let them run guilt on you. Don't let them do it. You know, well, if only you would do this, then I wouldn't have to behave this way. Oh, no. You are the author of your own choices. You're the author of your own responses to life. I'm not making them up for you. So don't ascribe any part in your scenario where you would like me to feel guilty about who you decide to be and how you decide to run your life and your mouth. So very important to see that. How about number 13? Don't accept blame for their life choices. They're adults. They make choices. They fall on their face. Hopefully they learn. They pick themselves up. They don't do that again. Well, hijackals don't behave that way. They just look for someone to blame. They can be walking down a perfect sidewalk on a perfectly beautiful day, and they can trip on their own feet, and they're immediately looking for someone to blame and a city to sue because they must have tripped over something that someone else made them trip. And you can extrapolate that to everything they have to say about everything in their life. So don't let them run guilt on you and blame you for their life choices, because they're adults. They make a choice. It has a consequence. And if you are not allowing them to have the consequence of their choices, you are not parenting them in a healthy way. It is not good parenting to give kids everything they want. It just isn't. Okay, so number 14, don't let them use you. That seems so simple. So simple, but so important, because hijackals use people. And they will use your money. They will use your time. They will take up your emotional landscape if you let them in. Sometimes people ask me, what about forgiveness? And my response is this: you've forgiven someone when you no longer think about them, when they're not taking up any mental realty or any space in your heart. You've forgiven them. You just don't think of them. When you have shifted into that space, they're forgiven. But don't let them use you. And don't keep perpetuating those things by repeating them to yourself. Hijackals are nasty. They really are. Yes, we could say compassionately, they're troubled, they have issues. We can say all those things. But as I say all the time, and I know those of you who listen regularly will say with me, I didn't break them. I can't fix them. Not my job. I didn't break them. I can't fix them. Now, when you're the parent of these children, you have to notice, did I break them? I still can't fix them, but I can have a healthier relationship with them now, because I will show them what healthy boundaries are, what healthy steps are, what healthy interactions are. And now that I have become healthier in these interactions, they don't like it. They don't like it. But just because you maybe were misguided somewhere along the way doesn't mean you have to stay misguided. Doesn't mean you have to continue to support their bad behavior. As Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. So let's do better with this. You can change it anytime. Anytime. I know it's frustrating. I know it's infuriating. I know it's disappointing. I know it's confusing. I know it upsets you. I know that it troubles you, keeps you up at night. How can I see the grandchildren? Why don't my kids come home? So many things. However, when you get that distance from them and you begin to realize, I don't like who they are. I just don't like it. And as an adult myself, I have the choice to have whomever I want in my life. And therefore, I have boundaries to say who can stay in my life. And just because I gave birth to you doesn't mean I have to put up with what it is you're serving. I really don't. I can say no, thank you. and so can you. And it's truly important. So number 15 goes with it. Don't let them abuse you. Now, I've spoken of that so frequently. It's difficult to say people are abusing you. Nobody likes to say that because it means they're abusing me. And now that I recognize it, I need to stop it and change things. So if I ever say out loud, a narcissistic adult child is abusive, I've got work to do. Now, you can go to beaclient.com and we can talk about this, but you have work to do. And in my community, the Emerging Empowered community at joinintoday.com, I have workbooks for you and courses to take you through these things. And when you're a member over there, you get 3 group Ask Me Anything calls with me each month for a very low monthly fee, and even lower if you buy a 3-month membership. I want you to have this information. I want it to be available to you to help you get healthier and healthier. This is so important. So hijackals are abusive by nature. That's what they are. So it's okay to say, I will not allow you to be abusive. And this is what is abusive. Number 16, don't think that they will ever be satisfied. That's big, right? Don't think that a hijackal adult child will ever be satisfied. No, they want more, 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 more. Give me more. I am more important. I am more worthy. I am more needy. I need everything that you have, and then you should go and borrow and give me more. And that's the way they think. They will never be satisfied. That's a big weight you can lift off yourself if you realize that one more thing, that one more car, that one more help with a down payment on a house, that one more thing that they want to specially go to will be the thing that will make them respect you or care about you or love you. It isn't there. It isn't going to happen. And you already know that in your heart because you've done it before. Number 17, don't accept their entitlement. Just because somebody believes that they should be given everything and yesterday, that means that you're the one who's supposed to give it to them. So you stamp your little foot and I don't come running. Now what? And where did you ever get the idea that I would be there to do everything? Oops, maybe I taught you that, and I don't like it anymore. I have learned differently. I want a better life for myself. I don't want a life spent running around hoping that my hijackal kid will like me. No, because I don't respect them. I respect their right to be a hijackal, but I don't respect their right to be around me. And I don't respect the way that they treat me or other people. So, no, I will not accept your entitlement. Don't think that because you may have contributed to the way that they behave, that you have to keep doing it. You're entitled to change and to grow, and to use that phrase that I borrowed from Star Jones, who says, my needs have changed. So important to realize our needs have changed. I have a need for respect. I have a need for not being taken advantage of. I have a need for not being guilted or shamed or blamed or future faked or gaslit. I don't do that anymore. I hope that's something you can say. And don't allow it. Don't accept their entitlement. Number 18, don't forget they are predators. Don't forget they are predators. They are out to get. They're out to take. They're out to pounce. They're out to come home with the booty and the bounty. And they don't care who they hurt. They really don't care because they're empathy deficient. And so don't forget that they are predators and they will take from anyone. But particularly they'll take from you or try to if you happen to be their parent or their sibling. Or if we're talking about hijackals in general, it could be your friend, could be your partner, your parent, could be anybody. Right? So don't forget they're predators. Sometimes I watch court programs and I always notice that when a pit bull has assaulted a small dog on a walk somewhere, they always say, well, that's what pit bulls do. They lock on and they shake, and then someone has to unlock their jaw. Well, hijackals are like that too. They lock on and they shake, and until you say, no, not getting anything out of me, they won't put you down. And it's important to know the nature of the beast. It truly is. And not expect them to be different, not to be hooked on hope that they are different. And yes, when they appear to be changed for a hot minute, don't believe it. Wait to see if the change is sustained for 12 months and then say how nice it is that the change is sustained. Number 19, don't forget who they are is their actions, not their words. Always notice their actions. On the podcast, another thing we usually end up saying together is ABB. That's our mantra. Always believe behavior. I don't care what anybody says. I care to see what they do. And if it matches their words, great. If it doesn't, I was right to be watching their actions. And hijackals are very transparent in their actions. And that's what they truly believe is what they do. Not what they say. They can make nice with the words, but the actions mean everything. We're coming close to the end of the list. It's a big list. You may want to listen to it again because there's so many pieces to it. And each piece asks so much of you. I realize that. But it's good stuff to really get in touch with, that you don't have to be considering a hijackal every day of your life when you start putting some of these things in action yourself. Just because we gave birth to them doesn't mean we want to be their friends or we want them in our lives. Sometimes you just have to let go. Okay, number 20, don't expect them to change. They're not going to. The actual research shows that hijackals get worse with age. So if you're thinking, oh, well, they'll grow out of it, or they'll mature, or they'll have enough life experiences that they will, have a few shocks and it'll change them. No, it entrenches them. It doesn't change them. And it's important to see that. I know how much you wish that the worldly experience would give them the school of hard knocks. It doesn't. They do their best to give the world the school of hard knocks as created by them. And they think they're entitled to do that. So all of those 20 things, number 21, this is big. Don't give your life away to someone dedicated to rejecting you in order to get their way. Don't give your life away to someone dedicated to rejecting you to get their way. You could spend the rest of your life hoping a hijackal child would straighten out, would have enough life experience to knock off their edges and to have them become healthy humans. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And I'm not talking from gloom and doom. A few people with a few hijackal tendencies who are self-aware and say, whoa, I picked that up from my mother and I don't like it when I do it. Sure, they can change their behavior, but that's not the people we're talking about right now. We're talking about people who behave like that daily and have all these expectations of you that you will do all the things that I said don't do. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you'll reflect on it. I hope you'll come on over and join in at emergingempowered.com. Join the community, read the blog. There's so much there for you, including all the podcast episodes. Everything is there. So until we speak again, take very good care of yourself because you're precious and you matter. Talk soon. So let's see who's with us tonight. Good evening. Hello, Hunted. Hi, Linda. Thank you for the super sticker. Always appreciate the little boost that we get when people offer money to say they're receiving value here. So thank you, Linda. Hello, Deborah. You are welcome for the episode, for sure. Hunter said boundaries are tough as some people will just disregard them. They will, but boundaries have consequences. And if people disregard them, you enact the consequences, which is don't be around me anymore. Go away. No deal. All of that. Not easy, but really important. Linda said exploitation. Absolutely. That's what all this is. Everything I spoke about tonight are hijackals trying to exploit and get everything that they want while they run roughshod over you. Not anymore, because you've been listening to Save Your Sanity so long that you say, no, not happening, right? Linda said, I made up a great excuse this weekend to escape his mean sisters and adults, going off to a nice hotel and sauna with a perfect excuse. I came first. Yay! Good for you. You're taking care of yourself. That's great. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is important. Honda said, conversely, it's also not your responsibility when someone accuses you of making them angry. No, people decide to get angry. You don't make them angry. I've had relationships where the abuse was excused because I made them mad. Man, that shows you how crooked the thinking of many people is just because someone else upset them, that how dare you? If you choose to get angry about it, that's your issue. That's your thing. And if the way you express your anger means that my boundary says, I'm out of here, they'll be even angrier. But it solves so much. So important. Linda said, we have to take care of ourselves and protect ourselves and leave permanently if it's essential to escape. Yes, we truly do. We truly do. You have to think it through and believe you're important. You're equally important. And you'll never have equality, reciprocity, and a mutuality with a hijackal, no matter who they are, even if they happen to be your adult child. So it's all important. And Linda says they also take revenge to give them the last say. Yes, they do. But because you're expecting it, it has no impact, that they know about anyway. So I know that this was not a topic everybody would get excited about, but it's an important topic for us to realize because it helps us revisit hijackal relationships in general, that they are all these things that I mentioned. And we need to say no to those things. All of those don'ts are important. And when you really take that on board and you say, no matter what I've done in the past, I can now change this to the don'ts. Not taking it on, not taking it in, not having it in my life anymore. Yes, it'll be a difficult transition in many cases, but you deserve to not have that happening. And I hope that it's really helped you to think about it. And I really invite you to listen again. I'm sure, of course, share the podcast with people you know or in Facebook groups you're on if you found value and other people need to hear those things or would be helpful. But really take it in. Really take it in. Like, whoa, there's 21 things that I can do to protect myself from hijackals in any relationship. But it was focused today on what narcissistic adult children might do. So I see we don't have any more comments. So I'm going to say, take very good care of yourself because you're precious and you matter. And I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.